begin, I just want to acknowledge our friends of the Brookline Library for sponsoring this program and programs like it. I also want to thank our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, who will be streaming this program through Facebook, YouTube, and local Channel 3 on RCN and Xfinity. This program is also being streamed through the library's Facebook page as well. I would also like to read a quick disclaimer before we begin. Participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program.
Hi, good morning. Let's begin by sitting up in our mountain pose, or you're also welcome. You could stand in mountain pose if you're familiar with that. Mountain pose is a foundational pose because it teaches us to lengthen the spine and to breathe fully. And that's what we're going to start with. We're going to think about lengthening the spine and breathing with diaphragmatic breathing. That means feeling the belly going in and out with the breath. Feel free to rest a palm on your navel if you want. And you'll feel the belly moving with the breath. That's the idea anyway. So really engaging the diaphragm, which is that muscle that runs kind of parallel to the floor, just below the lungs. And then to extend the spine, think about grounding down through the feet. So the feet, the position of the feet, the position of the knees, the alignment of the legs and the hips is important here. So the ankles directly underneath the knees and the knees approximately in front of the hips. So if you're looking from the front, perhaps my knees are a little wider than the hips, but they're not too wide and they're not narrow like this. They're kind of in the middle, like in the story with the three bears. With the porridge, it wasn't too hot or too cold, it was just right. So we want to feel just right, which means feeling balanced and at ease. And for this one, you also have a choice about whether or not to use the back of the chair or not. So I'm sitting actually away from the back of the chair, and my sitting bones are actually up near the front. I'll slide back. I've actually slid up near the front edge of the chair, just being sure that I don't slide off the chair. And I want to have enough support where I can feel the sitting bones grounded in the chair. The left and the right side, they feel even. And the left and right feet feel even. And that's my base. And from that base, I gently press the feet down and I extend the spine up. And I can help with that feeling of extending the spine by thinking about lifting the front ribs slightly. So if you find if you come up the belly with your fingertips, you'll find your ribs here. Think about lifting them up just a little bit. And that's going to help lift the heart. The chin may want to lift up. Don't let it lift up too much. We'd like to keep the face facing straight ahead. And the back of the neck ideally is long here. And what I mean by that is, although we have a curve in the back of the neck here, there is a curve in. It's not a big curve like this. My head's not dropping backwards. And we're moving the shoulders and the shoulder blades back. So there's a broadening across the heart, across the chest, across the collarbones. So let's start at the bottom. We press the feet. And we can do that by engaging the quadriceps here. So if you tap the tops of your legs here, these are the quadriceps. We want to isometrically contract them. It's almost like we're going to stand up. So if you're having trouble feeling that contraction, lean forward a little as if you're going to stand up, press the feet, and see if that helps so you can feel the engagement here. And then once you can feel that engagement, once we know what it feels like, we can then translate that into something that we remember, so that when we sit up and we're not actually leaning forward anymore, now we feel for that contraction here. We feel for that contraction. So if you need to practice that, you can lean forward, see what it feels like as you press, as you contract, and then come back up to straight. And after a while, your muscles get the hang of contracting even when you're not going to stand up. In other words, it's kind of like when you squeeze your hand. We kind of take that for granted, but we easily can squeeze our hands because we remember how to do it. We don't even have to look. We can close our eyes and squeeze our hands. We can put our hand behind us. And then we're still extending the spine up and breathing. Let's start with the sound of Om. So this is Oming is yoga for the voice. Our vocal cords are muscles, and we need to work them. So we need practice with them. So that's why singing is so good for our vocal cords. But the sound of Om is an ah. Notice the shape of the mouth, nice and big. Ah. Like you go to the doctor, they tell you to open wide and say ah, ah, and then oh. So make that O shape like a fish. Oh. And finally, we close the mouth and allow the throat to vibrate. Mm. And the sound of Om is really, in yoga, we would call it really a pranayama. So prana means breath or life force, but it's a practice of using the breath to tune the body in, to tune in to the unity that we call yoga, the unity of our person. And whatever that means to you, it's one of the things that ultimately in yoga we have to figure out is, what does it really mean? And I think maybe it's different for each of us. I mean, I'm only one person, so it's hard for me to know. And so we'll sit up nice and tall, and we're going to make the sound of Om, thinking about nice and easy breathing. So less is more here. If you overdo, take too big a breath, it creates tension, and that's counterproductive. We want to stay relaxed, even though we're efforting. So we're balancing. Think about balancing ease and effort. Balance. Sitting up tall, inhale. Relaxing the shoulders and the arms and the hands. Nice, easy breath in. Relaxing the jaw and the tongue and the throat. Last one. Softening the face and the eyes. And feeling the silence. I wanted to start by reading something. This is a little book. I think someone gave it to me, but I can't remember. It's called Mindfulness on the Go. Simple meditation practices you can do anywhere. And the author's name is Bays, B-A-Y-S, if you're interested. So this is called Appreciate Your Hands. And I had read this yesterday, and I've tried practicing it. It's really interesting. So I encourage you to practice it, and you could start today, right now, with our yoga practice. And it says, it's got a series of exercises, and each one has its own title. The exercise: several times a day, when your hands are busy, watch them as though they belong to a stranger. Also, look at them when they are still. And this has a few reminders. You could write the words "watch me" on the backs of your hands. Some people, I have seen people who write notes usually on the palm, but or you could put a different ring on your finger to wear to remind you to watch your hands. Or you could even think about your hands while you're washing them. So anytime you look at your hands, try to remember, I'm going to watch my hands. And we can begin with this with actually right now in our yoga practice by opening and closing the hands. And as they open and close, notice if they seem to have a mind of their own. We're watching them, and it's not really, doesn't require a lot of effort on our part. We can just observe them. So please think about that throughout our practice today, and if you can, later in the day as well. Maybe when you're preparing a meal or eating your meal, watching your hands just feed you. We don't think about it. And then circling the wrists around like this. And then back the other way. And circling the elbows around. So to do this, I'm going to circle my hands around, and notice how my elbows are kind of flapping. They kind of go up and down like this a little as my hands circle around. Let's go back the other way. And then finally the shoulders. So in our yoga practice, one of the things that we need to do is warm up. And one of the ways to warm up so that it's efficient and we make sure we cover all the joints in the body, especially. Joints are very important. Is we start at one extremity. So in this case, the fingers and the hands, we work our way to the shoulders. Now we're going to go down to the feet. You might go curl and then spread your toes. I'll take my sock off so you can see what we're doing, but you can leave your shoes and socks on if you have them on. I'm just going to lift my toes up. Notice how my foot's just flat. So this, I'm actually doing both feet. I'm going to lift up and I'm going to spread my toes. And if you're not used to moving the toes around, it can take a little practice. The other thing you can do to help the toes is to actually move them with your fingers and then see if you can make a connection. Feel what it feels like for them to move a little bit. So this can take a little bit of, you might have to do this, some repetitions. But if you have a part of the body that doesn't move well, you can manually move it with your hands as you're watching your hands, right? You're watching your hands do this stuff. And after a while, you begin to, you get a little bit more movement in the toes. And then if you keep practicing it, you get more movement. So in the beginning, the movement is very small, and you might not get much movement at all, but we want to be able to feel. We want to teach the mind to connect with the toes or with whatever part of the body we're using. So think about lifting and spreading the toes. And we're going to rock the feet like this. So I'm rocking the feet. Notice that the toes are pointed straight ahead, so the feet are parallel to each other. And my knees are approximately lined up with the hips. If that's uncomfortable, you could walk your feet a little further apart. You could even turn your feet out slightly. Try not to turn them out a lot. And don't let them turn in if you can help it. So it also, all the positions that we have here are really just guides. We'd like to maintain good alignment for the joints in whatever pose we do, but sometimes the restrictions in our muscles don't allow that. For some people, and my feet tend to go in like this and they don't really like to go out, but some people can turn their feet way out and can't turn their feet in very much. So we're all a little bit different. So try to maintain this, thinking about alignment. So the knee joint is a hinge joint, so it's lined up with the hips, and the toes is a good place for it. The shoulders and the hips move in a socket, so they can go in circles. The knee can't really do that. Wrists and ankles go in circles. Now let's go ahead and slide back in the chair for a moment. And sitting up nice and tall. And this is a chance to experiment with using the back of the chair. So slide back enough, and if you need to, you're always welcome to put a small cushion where the lumbar spine is to provide the curve. We want to maintain the 3 curves in the spine, the curve in where the lumbar region is right here, the curve out, the thoracic spine, really mostly between the shoulder blades, and the curve in the neck. And these are the curves that we were born with. They're natural. And if you look at a kid's spine, if you look at a young spine, you'll see that they naturally maintain those curves. They bend too, but when they're walking, they have really nice curves. We lose a lot of that because of our sitting and because of just life. And we'd like to maintain those things. It maintains better alignment in the vertebra that are stacked in the spinal column when we have those curves. If the back is too flat, the vertebrae tend to open on one side and compress on the other. And if there's too much curve, it's just the opposite. You get it, the opening is too much on the opposite side and too close on the other. So sitting up nice and tall, we can use the back of the chair. And let's try this. Just bring the hands up like this and just lean back a little bit into the chair. Lean back and see how that feels. Notice I'm not dropping the head back. See if you get a little more opening in the heart here. A little more opening in the heart, and perhaps the shoulder blades, I'm going to turn around so you can see, perhaps the shoulder blades move slightly closer together. But there's no pain or discomfort from that. No pain or discomfort. If you're getting pain or discomfort, if the chair is digging into your back, don't lean back so much. So we don't want to create pain. When we create pain, we create tension. When we create tension, the neurological benefits, that balance that we get in yoga is defeated. And let's rock from side to side. So for this one, you may need to slide a little bit away from the back of the chair. You could also move all the way to the front of the chair. And you can see how it feels on your bottom, depending on where your sitting bones are. If you're all the way in the front of the chair, the backs of the thighs are unsupported, but the buttocks is supported. If you slide back in the chair, even the backs of the thighs, when you come down, you feel support under there. So you may or may not like, or you may feel like one is, I don't know, you like it more. So try it both ways. See which one you like. And when we lean from side to side, we're really starting to warm up the core of the body here. The belly, the sides, and the back. And we're still extending the spine. So think about lengthening as you do this. Now, in the beginning, if we do it step by step, we lift the heel up and then lift the foot. And then come back down. And this is where we could do this. We could be mindful about this, just like we were watching the hands before. We could watch the feet now. And we could feel the balls of the feet come down and then the heel. And then we feel the heel come up on the other side and the ball of the foot lift off. probably have to slow it down to be able to actually feel, for our mind to have enough time to actually feel the places on the bottom of the feet. And you're welcome to do this lifting, keeping the torso firmly in place. It takes a little bit more core strength for that. You're also welcome to lift the foot higher and slower. So you can be anywhere from just lifting even the heel up, not even lifting the toes, just lifting the heel up, and you'll feel this action in the core, and then going to the other side to lifting the foot up, to holding yourself firm and not leaning at all. So when we don't lean, there's no momentum. It's all core strength lifting the leg. Again, try to avoid any straining. So if you're straining, sometimes lifting up like this, the tension goes up even into the throat. If your jaw is tense from that, then you're straining. And try to do something that's a little less strenuous. Still working, but less strenuous. So we want to be working without straining. And that's going to give us a balance, nice, much nicer balance in our yoga practice. And a much nicer balance in our life. And let's come back up, and we're going to come back to the legs. We're not done with the legs yet. We're going to pat one thigh, lift it up, and then swing it like this. So you may want to slide back on the chair for this. Notice I'm not really, it's swinging like a swing. So it's nice and easy, making sure it's going forward and back. So it's forward and back. You could even add the hands to it, or hand. So you could try the opposite hand. So remember, whenever we do, we have our, the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, and the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So it can be a little more interesting to actually do one side with one appendage and the other side with the other appendage. So let's lift up. Let's pat first, and that's the signal to lift the knee. Lift the knee. That means we engage the abdomen here. Use the back of the chair. If you start to slump, if you're slumping like this, if you put your hand back here, feel if there's a rounding. If you can't maintain the lumbar moving in a little bit like this, we have to firm up the belly as we swing. If you can't maintain that, please use the back of the chair. That's why we have the chairs. Really handy. A chair is really just a prop. And in yoga, we often use props. We have blocks. We might use a block later. We have straps when we're rocking the hand too. So we have a lot of options. You could even imagine there's a connection here between the fingertips and the toes. So as you swing the fingers open, the toes are swinging up. So it's this back and forth, almost like a flicking with the hand, and it flicks the foot. And this is different than a leg lift. This is a leg lift, which we're going to do now. So please put your feet, both feet down, and then go ahead and align the knees with the hips. So my feet are a little apart, and then I'm going to lift up, and I'm going to point and flex a few times. So this is for the ankle. See if you can keep the foot flat, and you can even add the hand to it, opposite hand or same side hand, keeping the hand flat. So notice that the wrist joint and the ankle joint are working in a similar manner here, coming back and forth. And we can also make that connection between the fingers and the toes here. See if you can connect the tips of the fingers with the toes that we were feeling before, not the foot, but the actual toes right here. See if you can make that connection. With practice, you'll be able to. And perhaps not once or twice. So one of the things we we have to learn in our yoga practices a lot of patience. A lot of patience. We have to be patient with ourselves. And kind of like life, we need to be patient with ourselves, because most things that are really truly useful or valuable, they don't come easy. And then we're going to do the other side. We're going to point and flex. Notice how each foot might be a little different. And what I mean by that is there's a tendency for the foot to roll in or out. You may get more flexion and extension on one foot than the other, because we're not structurally even on each side. And that's normal. Oh, we were doing the thing with the fingers and the toes. And now we'll do our leg lifting. We'll lift up and we pull the toes back. That's going to stretch the backs of the legs. Pull the toes back. And then when we release them, we relax the foot down. So it's like this. We lift up, toes back. Feel a lengthening along from the underside of the buttocks all the way down the leg, all the way through the heel. It's almost like we're extending the heel away from us. And then we're going to come down. So we're not going to hold it. We're going to lift up and then down. We can add the breath too. Perhaps inhaling as you extend, exhaling down. You can even give a sigh as you lower your foot down. This is one of those exercises that if you can remember when you're seated, do this exercise a few times, maybe every hour, just to give the muscles on the backs of the legs a chance to stretch a little. You don't even have to do it hard. It can be a nice, easy stretch. As a matter of fact, I kind of prefer that. It's really just getting everything moving, getting the joints moving, getting the muscles to gently stretch, getting the muscles to gently stretch. And let's try this, if you'd like. Lift your foot up and then bring your hands out like this, and then bring the hands back. And then let's do the other side. So it's a little something, a little extra here, if you want. And of course, this is your practice, so you don't have to do anything that I'm doing. Hopefully you do some of it, but I'm really just your guide, especially since we're not in person. You know, in-person classes are so nice because I can see what you're doing and you can see what I'm doing, and it's a nice way to learn from each other. And so as I'm opening my arms here and I'm breathing in, as I'm lifting my leg up, there's this opening here. So I'm exaggerating a little bit so you can see it hopefully a little more clearly, but I'm opening my heart, my chest. And a couple more. Let's do one more on each side. And then coming back down and rolling the shoulders. So lifting up. Let's do one shoulder and then the other. So making sure that as you lift up one shoulder, the other one, we let it relax down. So there's an efforting going on one side while the other side is totally relaxed. And notice if you can feel the shoulder blades moving independently of each other. So as we roll the shoulder up, the shoulder blade behind us is moving back. And then we relax that side and then do the other side. Let's go the other way. And now let's do a little backstroke here, like this. So this is the same as what we were just doing, but now the arms are lifting up a little bit. Depending on your shoulders, you could lift the hands higher, as long as the shoulders aren't going all the way up. If you're finding that your shoulder's up by your ear, then keep the arm down more. So we want to be able, I mean, the shoulder will naturally go up, but we don't want it to get stuck up here. And then we're going to go the other way. And this is going to be the beginning of our working the abdomen, a little turning in the abdomen. I'm reaching out, straight out first, and then across the body and down the opposite leg. So start out slow here. And notice your alignment too. Notice how the feet are pointed straight ahead. The knees are about lined up with the hips. They could be a little wider if you want. And I'm feeling like I'm lifted. I'm supported by the sitting bones in the feet. And then I reach out and across and down. And notice how there's a little turning when I do that. There's this diagonal movement from the hip to the opposite shoulder. Actually, come forward for 1 second. So stay in this nice seated position and then move the elbow back on one side and then the other. Try not to lift the shoulders up. And feel the belly here. You could even, let's try this. Rest your fingertips here, right on your belly. So spread your hands out wide, rest your fingertips on the belly. So we're kind of covering the whole belly, and even with thumbs on, say, the lower ribs, the very bottom ribs here. And move the elbows back, one side and then the other, keeping the fingertips on the belly. And notice if you can feel this move, there's a little movement happening underneath the fingertips. And that's what we want when we reach out. We want to be able to have this belly moving. In the beginning, sometimes it's hard to feel the movement, so we can rest our fingertips there. And then with a little practice, perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, or the next time we meet, with a little practice, we start to be able to feel the movement without our hands being there. I feel my belly turning like this. And I'm reaching out, and just like swimming, if you want, you can turn your head gently as if you were taking a breath. If you're a swimmer, you'll know what I mean. Because obviously, if we're swimming and our head's in the water, the only way to get a breath is to either lift the head up out of the water or to turn to the side. Or we have to be able to hold our breath for a really long time until we get to the other side. And then coming back up. And we're going to slide forward with the feet slightly, and we're going to circle around. So keeping the spine long here. So even though I'm starting to lean forward, making sure I'm not looking down. That's going to round the back. We want to keep the spine extended and long and the heart lifted. So I'm circling around. You might want to adjust the feet. You could even move the feet a little further out away from the chair and a little wider from the hips. So we want to feel like we're supported underneath. And this is it's like our tripod. So our feet and our buttocks are our tripod when we do this. And I'm extending. If you have trouble getting the feeling of extending, try sitting up a little bit more and not making the circles so big, until you can begin to feel the lengthening. And then as keeping the length, you can try circling, making so the shoulders are circling around in a plane that would be parallel to the floor. And this is going to be you're going to feel it in the belly. You want to keep a firm belly here. So no matter what position we're in, there's a firmness in the belly. There's more work's going on when we're backwards like this, going back, because the belly has to hold us up, otherwise we're going to fall backwards. And the same thing on the side. We're going to feel more going on in the side when I'm leaning to the opposite side, and the back is going to be more engaged when I'm forward like this. but I want to have firmness in all these areas throughout the whole exercise. More emphasis in those particular places when we need the extra help. And then, go the other way, please. Notice as you circle that you can feel the weight moving one foot to the other, the buttocks, the sitting bone, then the other buttocks and sitting bone, then the foot. If you go a little slower, give yourself time to feel. You can even take your hand like this and circle the hand around, or circle both hands. So we do this sometimes with the, you can have your hands on the knees like this for support. You could have your hands off the knees, circling around. You can even have your hands up like this. So this is the hardest, which doesn't mean it's the best. Although some people think that it does. It's not my experience anyway. Sitting up nice and tall. And take a few, let's do some cactus breaths here. Inhale and exhale. Like a dragon flapping its wings like this, or a bird. You could even do the bird like this. There's a little opening in the heart and the shoulder blades are coming together. So we can, when we do cactus breath, we can adjust the height of the elbows here to accommodate our shoulders. We want the shoulders to be relaxed enough so they feel okay. So that we will not elevate the elbows higher than the shoulders, but you may want to move them down more. You could even go back and forth and then snake the hands up and down. So you get to the elbows being shoulder height and then go back down. Kind of your choice here. And let's give ourselves a little hug. Starting out maybe with the elbows, and then the upper arms. We're crossing the arms. Each time we cross, the other arm is on top. So this arm is now on top, and then the next time this arm will be on top, like this, until finally perhaps we're reaching in onto the shoulders, onto the deltoids, up at the tops of the shoulders. Some people may even be able to reach the shoulder blades behind them, but I'm not straining here to do that. I'm trying to accept the way that I am. So I'm not, I'm moving and then I'm accepting how it feels and where I'm at. I'm going to pause here for a moment and just take a couple of breaths. Notice in this position that we don't get as much breath. This area is closed off, so we can get a little bit more feeling behind us. So notice the breath and then release. And a couple more times like this. Let's try it one more time. And so notice as the front of the body is constricted, it's a little more, it's an opportunity to feel the back of the body and to get a little bit more opening in the shoulder blade area. And if you find this is too constricting on the front, don't wrap yourself as tight, make it a little smaller, and then work on the shoulders behind you, the shoulder blades behind you. And then bring the arms down. Let's roll the shoulders a couple of times. Let's do the neck. Sitting up nice and tall, lifting the chin up, and then chin comes down. So we're going to go back and forth. Back and forth. As you do this, notice the support underneath you. So we've been seated. If you're into standing, you could stand up in mountain pose and do the neck exercises standing if your balance is very good. You could, even if you are standing, you could stand with the wall behind you. Nice way to feel the back, the straightness of the back and the extension of the back. Using the wall, not leaning against the wall, but feeling it. And the same with the back of the chair. You could use the back of the chair here too, if you're not already. And feel as we lift the chin up and down, the back, when we move one part of the spine, there's a ripple effect in all the other parts of the spine. They all move in response to that movement. And then coming back up, take a breath. Give a little sigh, relax the shoulders, and then we're going to tip the head. We let the ear fall gently towards the shoulder. This might be a good place for a pillow with the hands. And if you want to use the breath here, we'll inhale up and exhale down. So remember, the relaxation comes more on the exhalation. It's a little more energizing when we breathe in, and as we exhale, it's more relaxing. It's funny, if you look at the heart, if you look at your heart beating, your heart slows down as you exhale. If you exhale slowly, the heartbeat slows down. And when you inhale, it picks up again. So the heart doesn't always beat at the same speed. So going back and forth. And then sitting up nice and tall. And let's massage the ears. I hope people have found massaging the ears to be a pleasant thing to do on a regular basis. I'll move a little closer so you can see. Pretty straightforward. I start down at the bottom. I can go up and down the ear. There's no pain or discomfort. And then it's nice. I kind of pull it like it's a little taffy, like that. And you feel a little stretch, but no pain or discomfort. Please don't put yourself in pain. Be nice to your ears. We need our ears. We need our ears. And then we're going to turn the head. That massaging can help to release or make it a little bit easier to turn the head. Now let's swing the hand like this back and forth. And when I do my neck exercises, I like to close the eyes and not worry about how far I'm turning. I'm not worried about how far. And then switch your hand. Try your other hand. And then we're going to circle the hand around. And follow the hand with the nose. Follow the hand with the nose. And then go ahead and take the hand away, but keep the nose going. So we've gone from sort of a big circle, imagining a big circle, to kind of a smaller circle. And notice how that feels, that connection that we're making, what we're asking our head to do, what we're asking our neck to do, feels a little different. Let's go the other way. Continue to draw with your nose again. And for this one, it's easier for me if I close my eyes. If you don't want to close your eyes, or you're concerned about balance at all, try just closing them a little bit. So we start to partially close the eyes. So now my eyes are partially closed. If you're not used to that, it can take a little practice. So it can be a nice way to meditate as well. So there's traditions where when you meditate, the eyes are partially closed. And that removes a lot of the distraction, but it still keeps us very present when the eyes are open a little bit. And let's see, so we circled, we went side to side. Okay, so I think we did the neck. And let's let's do our sun breath. We didn't do that in the beginning. We're going to inhale up, exhale around. But we did warm up. So notice here how this feels. And if you can, think back to when we usually do it and see if it feels any different. We're a little more warmed up now. So you might get a little more spreading across the heart, a little more ease in the shoulder blades, perhaps a little bit more ease in the neck, softening in the face and the eyes. Now let's bend the spine in 6 ways. I think hopefully we're warmed up enough. So this is an exercise in flexing and extending the spine. Inhaling and lifting the heart forward. So it looks like I'm just sitting here. I'm inhaling and I'm lifting my sternum forward. I'll turn sideways so you're able to see. So it's a small movement. A small movement. I'm actually going to get a little closer to you. Sideways. See if this helps. So I'm sitting up nice and tall in my mountain pose. And it's nice to hold on to the knees here. So notice the arms stay straight. The shoulders don't move very much. And I lift my heart forward. And then my heart goes back. So there's a little bit of movement here, but not much. And notice how the arms stay relatively straight. So they're not bent. So I'm lifting and then moving back. So the movement that I'm working on is in the heart area, the heart and the shoulder blades. You might notice the chin lifts up and goes up and down a little. And the hips are rocking slightly. If you look down here, you notice that my back is straightening. I'm losing that curve a little. And then when it rocks forward, I get a little more curve. It's hard to tell with the chart, but this is curved and this is kind of straight. I want to avoid the rounding in the back. But I'm going back and forth with the heart. And remember, when we move the area around the heart, the thoracic spine, it ripples out. The other parts of the spine move as well. So I'm just letting them go along for the ride. So this is number 1 and 2. Number 1 and 2 in bending the spine 6 ways. So 3 and 4 is a lateral extension, starting with the hands like this. We're just going to lean a little like this. Actually, let's start with this. Reach up. So you're feeling a lengthening on the side of the body, from the hip, up the ribs, up the armpit. Keep your arms moving, though, going from side to side. I'm staying in one position just to demonstrate. I'm lengthening along this whole thing here. And if it bothers your shoulder to reach the arm up, just see about lifting the elbow up, maybe. See if that helps. So like this. I'm still getting this length. You could even, when you lift your arm up, bring your hand over. You'll feel this opening here. And if you bring your hand down, you'll feel it closing. So there's opening and closing. So that's what we want. We want that opening, this broadening of the rib cage, broadening of the armpit, and opening. So many of our exercises that we do in yoga are directed at opening space for the breath, for pranayama, the breath to come in. So we're going back and forth, reaching up, and now add a little bit more bending. So you could use your opposite hand to come down for support on the chair if you want. So please don't fall out of the chair. If you have an arm on the chair, you can rest your hand on the arm of the chair. But we want to feel like we're lengthening first, and then this whole spine is bending to the side. So this is a nice length and then bending. We always want to lengthen the spine first. And that's true in even our daily activities. If we can lengthen the spine, reduce the compression in the spine, when we bend the spine, it bends more easily. When the vertebrae are compressed together and the discs are squashed together, then when we try to bend, bend or turn the vertebra, they're bumping up against each other. And it's more challenging, it's more difficult. And we're going to bring the arms down. And then the final one is we're going to turn. Let's start with resting the hands like this, and then turning, feeling the elbows going back. So rather than doing it fast, see if you can go slow and feel some movement coming across the belly here. Even if your elbows aren't moving back very much. And remember, we're not straining here. We're not straining to move the elbows back. We're allowing them to move back. And then if you want, you can go a little bit faster to create just a touch of momentum. You could also remember to bring, so if your shoulders bother you when you do this, if you feel things are all jammed up here, lower the elbows down like this. So you could do this like the twist, the dance, the twist. So twisting or turning of the belly is so good for our abdomen and for all the stuff inside. It's really good for our regularity. It's really good for gently massages. We get a compression in the internal organs, a little squeeze, not a big squeeze, but a small one. And that helps to move the blood around. Actually, all the movements in the body. Let's come back to the middle. One of the reasons that moving in yoga is so good for us is we have our lymph system, which is kind of like our circulatory system. Let's rock from side to side here. Just build a little bit more heat here. And our lymph system is really, the lymph travels from the extremities back to the center of the body where it's eliminated. The lymph system is sort of like a waste system in the body. It relies on our muscular movements. It's the squeezing of the muscles when they contract. It helps to squeeze the little lymph areas, and the stuff moves slowly back towards the center of the body. If you're interested in that, there's certainly plenty of stuff online about our lymph system. Sitting up nice and tall. And let's all just take a minute. We're going to stand up in mountain pose, or you can do seated mountain pose, just to give us a little break here if you're inclined to stand up. So standing up in mountain pose, and then soften the knees and straighten. Soften and straighten. So I like to do a balance pose here, a tree pose. So we extend the spine up, we feel the feet grounded, and then go ahead and pat one leg, the thigh here, and this will be our straight leg, and we're going to open the thigh like this, and then bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the calf. You can always step down and come back, and you can add the arms if you want, like this, like a tree. You could have the hands together in front of the heart. Think about extending the spine up. And sometimes we lose our balance, so we need to come down. And if you're seated, if you're standing, go ahead and come down, or continue if you want. If you're seated, you can do the seated pose like this, bringing the foot to the outside, the leg of the chair, and you can either extend the leg like this, or you can keep it bent, and then still extending up. So it's still about the extension of the spine. And there's a little bit of balance here. And then we're going to all come down. We're going to switch to the other side, but come back to our mountain pose first. Forget about what we just did. Come back to the mountain pose. Only the mountain pose. Be balanced in mountain pose, both sides. And then we're going to do the opposite leg now. Go ahead and pat that leg. That'll be the firm leg. We'll open the thigh and bring the sole of the foot on the inside. Firm up the buttocks, extend the spine. And if you're a little wobbly, that's okay. You've got your chair, right? Chair is very handy. Move it to the side a little so you can see. Just even resting a fingertip on the chair. Sometimes that's enough to be able to make us feel better balance. Just a fingertip. And if you'd like to be standing and you're concerned about balance, you could also stand working against the wall like this with a chair on each side of you. Recommend that if you want to be standing. That way, this not going to fall backwards, or if you fall backwards, you bump into the wall. We want to be right next to the wall, but without leaning against the wall. And then we're going to all sit down and take a few breaths. Feeling the belly moving with the breath here. So we're allowing ourselves to really settle down. And maybe for the first few breaths, don't use the back of the chair, extend the spine up. Maybe even lean a little bit to one side and then the other. And then feel the lengthening of the spine as you lean. Kind of like as I lean to this side, I can feel a little more lengthening. Because when we were bending before, when we bend to the side like this, remember we lengthen the side. So think about, as you lean slightly, think about this bending, but also lengthening, and then going to the other side and lengthening. It's like we're lengthening one side and then lengthening the other, and then slowly coming right into the middle so that we've now lengthened both sides, so our whole spine feels a little taller, a little more lengthened. Allowing the face and the eyes to soften. Letting the breath come back to a nice natural rhythm. Nice natural rhythm for the breath. Then we're going to settle into our Shavasana. And like we usually do, we'll stay with Shavasana for a couple minutes together. Then we'll formally end the class. And you can continue for as long as you like in Shavasana. At least 5. If you can get 5 minutes in, that's really good. 10 minutes is really good too. Just breathing naturally, sitting up nice and tall, and the hands are resting comfortably. So we'll see everyone officially next time. And we'll continue for about another minute or so. When you breathe in, think about a lightness in the spine. So the spine is extending up, the face is soft, the eyes are relaxed. And then as you exhale, feel the feet grounded on the floor, even on the floor. Feel the buttocks and the sitting bones, even in the chair. Relaxing the shoulders as you exhale. So there's a lightness that comes when we inhale, and a softening and a relaxation and a release that comes as we exhale. Allowing the breath to feel very soft. The belly is soft. The eyes are soft. heart is soft. Namaste. That completes our class for today, but feel free to continue. Turn off your device and continue for a little meditation a little bit longer. I'll see everyone next time. Thank you very much. Namaste.